Call to order the Monday, March 25th, 2013 Public Safety Committee, and I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that they be approved.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. First thing I want to do tonight is I want to welcome our Commissioner Phillips back after a lengthy time off. And she's brought the 8th commissioner with her tonight. Baby boy that she had here recently, and we want to welcome you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
All right, first on the agenda tonight is our pause report. Go right ahead.
All right, sir. For the month of February, we had 522 animals that entered the shelter. 25% of those came from county jurisdictions, 12.5% came from the city of Laverne, 48.3% came from the city of Murfreesboro, and 14.2% came from the town of Smyrna. Out of those, 152 were adopted back out, 261 were euthanized, 122 were reclaimed, and then 4 passed away in the shelter or out in the field, and 30 had other outcomes, for a total out of 569 animals. That gave us an adoption reclaim percentage for the month of 48.2%, and our euthanasia percentage was 45.9%. Out of those 122 animals that were reclaimed, 63 of those were from the PIT-SNP program. On February the 28th, at the end of the month, we had 115 animals that remained in our care at the shelter. 2,414 people visited the shelter looking for a new or lost pet, and 2,073 logged calls and voicemails for the month of February. We had 1,290 calls that were received and 1,335 calls that were completed. You can see the breakdown of the jurisdictions on those as well.
Just one quick question. We had 2,400 that visited, the potential to take one home with them. How many did?
We had 152 adoptions for the
Okay.
month.
Thank you.
And out of those 2,414, those are folks that are coming in that are looking for their pet to see if it's at the shelter, as well as just viewing the animals that we have available. For the month of February, we traveled 9,820 miles. Fiscal year to date, we've taken in 5,106 total animals. You can see the breakdown of the jurisdictions. Our adoption and reclaim percentage year to date is 31.4%. Our euthanasia rate is 61.8%. I really can't give you a reason why it's better for the month, but we're seeing the months seem to improve. This month's been a little bit off. It may be a little bit down, but the month of February, 48.2% adoption reclaim. I was very tickled over that. Year to date, we've had 16,095 people that have visited the shelter and 17,575 log calls and voicemails. There's been 10,632 calls that were received and 10,787 calls that were completed, and we've traveled almost 80,000 miles for this fiscal year. On the last page of the report is our rabies and bite exposure report. You'll remember, this goes by calendar year, so this is the second year for this report for 2013. We had 29 bites that were reported. Out of those bites, 5 of those animals were tested, with none of them being returned positive. On the other exposure, we had 4 of those that were reported. 3 of those were tested, and 3 of those came back as unsatisfactory, which is the same as testing positive. That was all the same animal. It was a skunk. There were 3 different dogs that had exposure to that animal, hence the 3 different exposure reports. There's a report for each dog that was exposed. So even though you see 3 positives there, it was the same animal that tested positive. The state got involved on that, doing some home quarantine observations with those animals. I think a couple of them were current. I think one maybe was not, but the state dictates how we handle those from
there. Any questions on his report?
Motion to approve the report.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
I have budget amendment. Did you all have that? Have copies if you don't.
Don't think so. I don't think it's on here.
There's copies for everybody on that one. I've already included a copy in the packet.
No, I don't have one either.
I apologize.
Thank you.
asking to do is move money within our budget from our attendant line item and from our longevity line into our part-time and our overtime pay. I hope this is going to get us throughout the end of the fiscal year.
I guess that's where you got a shortage of attendance and moving it over.
Correct. Yes, sir.
You've heard the request. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All right, discussion. Hearing or seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
Yes. Is that it?
Our adoption rescue trailer that we had on order has come in. We're working on getting that set up and complete. With your permission, at next month's meeting, I'd like to bring that up for you all to view before the meeting between
Okay.
5:20ish, if that's okay for anybody that'd like to take a look at it.
I guess most of us get here about 5, and
Okay. We'll make sure it's here in the parking lot at 5 o'clock.
if you would for me,
Mhm.
if you will make sure and get with Vicky
Yes, sir.
and tell her to set the time. I guess being the commissioners are gonna be around this, we wanna make sure that we don't violate any sunshine law or anything like that. Let's make sure that the people know we're gonna be here at 5 o'clock
Okay.
to view, the trailer.
I'll get with her.
That way we're
What are we
legit.
viewing?
The adoption rescue trailer that you all allowed us to purchase through the donation line?
That's the mobile one?
Correct. I'd like to get one of the officers to drive it up here at next month's meeting, and we should have it wrapped and everything by that time. I'd like for you all to see it before we get it out on the road.
Yeah.
You've got a schedule for it?
We don't have a schedule yet. We're trying to get everything lined up. It's taken a little bit longer on the wrap than we anticipated. We've had it for, it's not even 3 weeks yet.
Oh,
So it's taken a little bit to get everything lined up. We want it to look right, so it's taking some time getting it designed the way we want it. That'll work?
If you do that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir, can do.
All right, is that it?
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Next is emergency management.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. Report is before you,
We don't have anything.
significant events. We did have a,
They haven't loaded your report. He has his report, but it's not on this iPad.
Okay.
So we-
did she send it to you?
I don't know, I don't
Jackie
get
doesn't do
them.
it. Vicky would have to do
Then
that.
Vicky should have done it,
Or
yeah.
Tara.
Tara should have sent it to Vicky.
Okay, so we don't have that on this device.
All right,
How
I
many
thought,
copies you got there?
I only have one for her and one for me. Y'all can pass this around or?
We can go ahead and read off of it, we fine.
All right, significant events. We did have an EF1 tornado in the Christiana area last week. It was pretty much insignificant, mostly scattered tree damage for a 5-mile path with some structure damage to about 10 residents. 2 barns received some very heavy damage, but it was rated at a low-end EF1 for damage. This is the second tornado we've had for the year so far. We had an EF0 in Eagleville earlier in the year, and just want to remind people to maintain vigil on severe weather when it starts to move into the area, because we're not even to the end of the season yet. We've already had a couple events, and I don't know who ordered this cold weather, but I'd like to have a talk with them.
I've actually heard they've indicted the groundhog.
You put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to put that in motion, please, yes.
Can you, remember what's going on in Christiana the other day? My wife asked me, what does EF mean? And I felt really dumb because I didn't know, so.
Not many people do. It's EF is an acronym for Enhanced Fajita Scale. It used to be just an F scale or Vegeta, Fajita, wherever you're from, scale, which measures the intensity of a storm rated on its wind speed, velocity, and damage impact. And EF1 is the old E1, but the parameters for damage sustainment is listed by specific wind speeds, and EF1 starts at a speed of 85 miles an hour and goes up from there. So it just depends on how intense the storm is.
E stands for what?
Enhanced. New and exciting. We did have a 2,000-gallon wastewater release into the Stones River at General Mills last Thursday. The majority of the water they situated as raw wastewater materials that came out of their holding facility at the site, went into the Stones. Unbeknownst to them, they didn't realize they were having release until they saw level in the tank going down. The majority of the product consisted of food byproducts, which wasn't technically a hazardous material, but did have potentially oxygen displacement capabilities, and we potentially could have had a large fish die off. But we did a downstream survey, and we didn't come to any conclusion that there was any impact to the river whatsoever to that capacity. So state TDEC and TWRA and all the proper authorities were notified, and American Environmental Services conducted remediation on that project. And other than that, continuing business as usual. We've wrapped up the 2010 and 2011 grant. We've only got the remaining 2012 grant now that we're working on as far as that goes, and we're keeping on keeping on.
So the grants are actually, the number are going down, and plus the dollar amount that we're receiving is actually going down as well.
Substantially, yes, sir.
Any questions on this report? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. I'll make sure you all get a copy of the report.
Okay, thank you. Next is County Fire and Rescue.
The excuse me, first page is just some report of some of the activities that I've been involved in this month. One of them was met with David Klein on the 20th. He came back with the recommendation that property management brought forth about adding that extra room, and had a drawing of it, and it actually put about 130 square foot to the side of the building behind the bays, which would give us a full kitchen and a full ADA bathroom. I looked at it and was very well pleased with it. It was actually better than the idea that we had, and showed it to my guys, and they're excited about it. So we're ready to move forward with that. Also, February 25th, we were notified by ISO that since we combined the Rutherford, Salem, Blackman, Rockville, and Southeast Rutherford, which is out of our Manchester area, those departments, we had to do a ISO evaluation because we pretty much lost it when we gained all that. Rutherford was already a 5, but during this evaluation with our training, staffing, and all the things involved in it, we were able to drop our ISO rating from a 7 in Rockville, Southeast Rutherford, and Salem Blackman areas from a 7 down to a 5. So we dropped it 2 points. So we're very well pleased and excited about that. Then, like to say, that right there is what homeowners insurance is based on. The lower the ISO rating, the better off the insurance.
That could save a homeowner approximately $200 a year on just on homeowners insurance.
Well, it
By 2 points.
It affected quite a few people. I know Miss Vicki was excited about it because she lives in that area. Next page, just MVA report. There was actually 38 calls with an average response time of 9.1 minutes. I did record 1 fatality on the 16th of this month. Also, if you look down at like the fourth one down was a 20-minute response. We were on a fatality death out on Rehoboth, and we had 2 rescue units tied up off that because of manpower issues. So we had a late response getting out to the interstate from Rehoboth. Thankfully, that time we got there, got out that way, the sheriff's department canceled us on it, so there was no need for extrication or injury. So we got lucky on that one. But that was the reason for the delayed response there. Next report is the training and call report. Had a call with 254 calls with all departments for this month. Next sheet is just a kind of just a summary of some of the training classes that we've done this month. Friday night ended our EMR first responder class. We graduated 20 students to be medical first responders with the very great support from Mike Nunley, EMS, and Randy White. We're able to offer this class. This saves each student about $350 in class fees that they would cost them if they took it. And then so they're responsible for taking their national registry test and then getting their license.
On this training, how many of the volunteer fire departments here in Rutherford County take these classes?
This is offered to everybody.
I know, but how many of them come to them and actually take the classes? All
Well,
of them?
it's our department, and we have a big response from, mostly from Kittrell. A lot of their guys are involved in our classes, and as far as the regular weekly training, it's just our department. We've opened it up to the whole county, but we're our department's the only one that shows up, but we've offered it to everybody in the
So
county.
it's
to
actually
train.
Rutherford and Kittrell are the only ones that
Well,
actually?
yeah, we've done some joint training with Kittrell, but as far as we've invited everybody in the county to show up to these trainings, which is every Tuesday and Thursday night, it's mostly just the Rutherford County Department. So we did that. Friday night we graduated 20 students, and April 8th we start up our firefighter rookie school, which is an 8-week class, about 80 hours. Of course, the EMR class was free. This firefighter class was free to the firefighters. I pay for that out of my budget. It's like $180 for the whole class. Next sheet is just a copy of what we send to the codes department for fires that's had damage that require a permit. Like I say, on Rehoboth, we had a fatality in that fire. The elderly lady was not able to exit the structure. And that's on my report.
All right. Any questions on his report? Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Also have a budget amendment. Lisa Nolan advised me that we had some people make donations to our department, and $425. So I request to have that dropped over in our $499 line item. And she said that's just where people that have been supporting Rutherford in the past, wanted to continue to support and give a donation to the department.
All right, we got a request here. We understand the request. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion. Hearing or seeing none, call roll.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Solid.
Thank you.
I do have one question, and you kind of touched on it earlier about the Fosterville Midland Station. If you could update us on that with
They got a temporary occupancy letter. Well, they still have to do the sprinklers inside the facility, but David Jones gave them a temporary occupancy where they can put their trucks inside there, but they can't spend the night.
Okay.
And so they've still got to put the sprinklers inside the office area and then the bay area. But
Okay.
other than that, it's pretty much.
Good deal. I just wanted everybody to know that. I don't know if everybody here knew or whatnot, but thank you.
Yeah. And hopefully they'll have the sprinkler system installed very quickly. That's all they like on that.
It's a good looking building. I went out there and checked it out. It's
Yeah, they're very
impressive.
excited about it. Very excited.
They sent out their email today saying they are in the building today with those trucks stationed there.
Well, thank you. I just want to appreciate it.
Good day to have a building, truck with water in it inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next is the Correctional Work Center. Welcome.
Again with the minutes from the last board meeting. This was on March 4th, Monday, March 4th. Report of expenditures, everything was good. We discussed the budget amendment that was passed the previous month. maintenance and repair of the building. We had a special project we had to pay for with the chillers, I believe. That's what that was. Discussed the proposed budget for the next fiscal year, which came in 14,000 less than the previous year, or this current year. The other thing we discussed was the accreditation with the National Commission on Correctional Healthcare. It's going along fine. I had a meeting with our medical provider, Dr. Rudd, in Ken Tucker's office, and talked about mental health training, which was implemented and begun. I think next week they're going to start doing the training to the staff. And other business, we discussed the grant with Volunteer Behavioral Health, which also known as the Guidance Center. The grant was actually submitted last Wednesday, and will be for $250,000 for 2 years, and will cover 2 employees provided by the Guidance Center to cover mental health and actually aftercare with the offenders once they get released. So we're hoping we do get that grant. It'll be a great grant to have. Any questions? All right. Next was the state letter pickup for February. We collected a total of $2,837.45 from the state. This program is going along fine. Actually, they scheduled a meeting. There's a meeting coming up soon with TDOT to discuss. I was just with this county, I think 3 or 4 other counties, to discuss that grant and just different standards that's going to pertain to that. And last on the minutes of the yearly activity report, our census has been approximately been around 170, 175. We peaked to 180s there now and then in the past couple of months, as you can see. Felon days did pick up for February. Work crews are still going steady. Incident disciplinary reports about the same. GD program is going strong. And DUI little pickup, that's going to pick up even more because we increased the days now, the 3 days a week, so those DUI offenders can come in and do their little pickup in between now and then this fiscal year, so we told them we can increase 1 more day. And that's about that. Any questions on that? One thing I have left is the amendment.
Okay, on his report, any questions? Now I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion is carried. Got a budget amendment.
Yes, we're requesting to amend some funds from our line 399, the contracted services, to give us sufficient amount of funding for the remainder of the fiscal year. The amount we're trying to decrease out of 399 is $26,050. 196 in-service training will be $3,000 implemented in that line. 335 maintenance repair of the building, $5,000. 336 maintenance repair equipment, $5,000. Law enforcement supplies, $5,000. 499 other supplies, materials, $5,000. 435 office supplies, $3,000, and 320 dues membership, $50. And that should, unless something drastic happens with maintenance, we should hold us to the rest of the fiscal year.
On that 26,000 that you're decreasing, is that due to picking up the laundry yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
It really helped a lot to do that.
I was gonna say, good job there.
Mhm.
And I'll make a motion to approve this transfer.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All right, discussion. Hearing or seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Petty,
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
Yes. That all?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the OSHA report. Welcome.
Evening. I believe you all have the report there in front of you. I'd like to report that in the month of February we had a total of 11 injuries requiring medical attention for county employees. That brings the total for the year-to-date for January and February to a total of 29. Of that, 23 were OSHA recordable. 14 of them had restricted days. 5 had lost time days, and 4 others. On the next page, you'll notice the graph there as you compare and look at that, just to kind of help you see that for the first 2 months. In 2011, we had a total of 49, while in 2012 we had 26, and of course 29 now. So just slightly above where we were last year as far as the number of accidents, but well below where we were 2 years ago.
Let me ask you a question,
Yes, sir.
and I probably have asked this in the past, but it escapes me. When we have people that are hurt, and is there any type of light duty?
It depends upon the location, but absolutely, yes, sir. For example, there are some departments, let's say with a correctional facility, they may not have light duty depending on what the injury is and what that person, where they go into, okay? Food service may not have light duty if it requires somebody to have a sit-down job only. But we use a lot of light duty in the county area.
That way, keep somebody, bring them back to work, but
They're allowed
still
to,
doing it.
yes, sir.
the
They're
job.
allowed to collect their full paycheck while they're on light duty and still have work available and contribute, versus sitting at home where they would not be contributing and then possibly either not earning or be earning at a reduced capacity.
Okay, thank you.
On the third page of the report, at this time, the total incurred dollars for the month of February was $16,241. The Board of Education, of those injuries, they had a total of 7 injuries. The dollars incurred for them was $9,891. And the County General had the other 4 for $6,350. Then we had the breakdown of the County General, those 4, and you'll see that that's over 3 different organizations there, those 4 injuries and how they're broken out there on that next page.
What did they have? Animal services? Was it what, bites or what was it?
Could very well possibly be, yes, sir. There've been several bites and or strains from handling larger animals lately. And the last page of your report, as you requested, that shows the incurred dollars for the last 3 years. In 2011, by the end of February, we were at $115,000. In 2012, we were at $38,000, and this year we're at $39,000 through the month of January and February. And just a reminder and caution you, any claims on incurred dollars that are less than a year old, those claims can change rather quickly. You take somebody who may have only a medical-only claim at this time, fell and injured a knee or something like that, and if the knee doesn't get well or something, then they go to a specialist, it could turn into a surgery, and that could triple the cost of the claim overnight just by the fact to be surgery involved in or something like that. So I just always want to caution you when you look at these numbers, especially on the incurred dollars, they can change rather quickly from month to month. And that's all I have at this time, unless you have some questions.
Any questions?
Motion to approve the report.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening.
You too. All right, next is the domestic violence report and budget. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, you doing all right?
Doing all right.
You go right ahead.
Okay. For domestic violence, last year we handled 1,133 cases, which was an increase in cases of 171 cases from the prior year. Of those, 827 were misdemeanor domestic assaults, 261 were felony domestic assaults, 11 were stalking cases, and 34 were violations of orders of protection. In addition to that, there were 629 protective order petitions filed in circuit and chancery court in 2012. Looking at the numbers for the beginning of this year, January and February, through February 28th of this year, there appears to be about a decrease of 9 cases. For the same period last year, there were 190 criminal charges filed, domestic criminal charges. This year, there have been 181. However, although the criminal charges have decreased slightly, the orders of protection have increased. Looking at the same time period, January and February of this year, there have been a total of 161 petitions filed for orders of protection versus last year, during the same period, there were 118 petitions filed.
Question on your orders of protection. Last year there were 34 violations. How many of them resulted in something serious, or do you have any knowledge?
I do, but I did not bring that information with me. Now, when you say how many of those...
Saying, you know, okay, these people violate, and that could be just that they got near the person that they weren't supposed to be within a certain distance, right?
Yes, sir.
But it could also be, and all I'm saying, I read the papers, and not just here, but other places, and you know, and it seems like there's a lot of these orders of protection that people are just disregarding and going to ex-spouses or something who was the one in the paper that for the DCS is the one that was in Tennessee in this weekend. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. So is your question how many of those violations of orders of protection actually
resulted in some form of, yes, or some form of violence, roughly?
I would say of the 34 that we handled, I don't believe that any of those included any additional injury. It may have been threats or just contact, but I don't believe any of those that we handled last year included any type of injury to the protected party.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve her report?
We'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve her report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion is carried. And I think you've got a budget.
Yes, sir. The next thing that I have is the budget. And it is an increase from last year's budget of about $4,000. However, this budget is supported by offender fees and then a grant that we have.
It's 100% no property taxes.
No, sir.
100% of, like you say, grant and fees.
Yes, sir.
The increase of the 4,000, I'm assuming, is the step raise or something like that?
Yes, sir.
It's just routine.
It's the step raise.
Normal increases.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget.
Got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
That's a motion to approve and forward it on to the budget,
Budget committee, correct,
I'll
sorry.
second.
Motion and a second. So, all right, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
You have a good night.
You too. Next is the drug court.
I brought Judge Bragg with me today. I
Welcome.
thought he needed to be experienced and initiated into the budget process for drug court.
We welcome Judge Bragg.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
As far as my report goes, you see my numbers. We actually just went up to 50 today. We got a new person, so we have about 5 or 6 waiting in the wings, and I have 6 on my desk I have to assess out of the jail. It just goes on and on and on. So, nothing unusual.
Any questions on her report?
How many in each court can you handle at a time?
Our capacity, give that to Becky, please. Our capacity for drug court is 50, and our capacity for DUI court is 25. And that's with, all case managers can handle 25 cases comfortably. Well, not comfortably, but, you know, they can give them all the services they need.
And you're full occupancy on both?
Mm-hmm, yes. We're about ready to be over on drug court. And a lot of times in the past, we have been in DUI court as well. So we can definitely handle more people if we had more staff, which we'll get to that with my budget.
Any other questions? Have we got a motion? I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Got a motion and a second on the report. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. And the budget.
Okay. What, do I have a budget amendment? Was that returned to me? I wasn't in today.
I don't see a budget amendment. I mean, I don't.
Okay.
don't think so.
I know I sent it over for your signature Friday. I think.
I wasn't here Friday night.
Okay. Okay. My budget. Okay. We have some new money this year, which is always exciting. The state has contacted me and told me that instead of the $50,000 grant that we typically get every year from the state, this year we're getting $107,500, and this is reoccurring. Yeah, so we're excited about that. 70,000 of that will come from the new department that we're with, the Department of Mental Health. They're raising everybody's budget or grant by up to 70,000. The rural drug, what they consider the rural drug courts or non-urban drug courts. The 37.5 is from the governor's appropriation, which Senator or Representative Womack was able to procure for us this year. But I have been told that this is reoccurring, so apparently this is what we'll get every year from now on. So that's good.
The whole thing?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was told. And that was by the drug court program manager in the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, that will be recurring.
We won't know officially until they actually get that budget passed down there, but it looks encouraging.
Very encouraging.
Things can change down there real quick.
Yeah. But drug courts, the governor is very, very supportive of drug courts, and that has been a major part of his public safety forum that he has been addressing to the public for public safety. So there's a lot of really good things happening with drug courts now.
If that for some reason doesn't pan out, I saw your new position there that's included. I guess that's the extra money there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to point out, I do like your second page, and I want to commend you on this. The year before, you asked for $60,000 from the county general, and this year it's $33,000. So
just thought I'd mention it.
Thank you.
It's gone, and it used to be $80,000.
Yeah,
for 3 years, it was $80,000.
You've done a really good job of finding other funds to support your mission, and I want to commend you on that.
Thank you very much. I try. I definitely do. I hustle a lot. You also go ahead. I'm sorry.
And make note on that second page, her foundation is helping substantially and more every year, so they are to be commended for
Right.
doing a substantial amount of extra work there.
Right. So the new position, the caveat with the increase in money was that we have to increase our capacity. And so I have to have a new position. We were originally discussing a part-time position for 30 hours, but now we're looking at a full-time position. This person will be able to handle a caseload of 10, in addition to all the home visits, all the drug screens, mail drug screens, assessments, and then teaching that extra class for the LIOP that brings in money for us. So giving him the 10 extra people was what forced us to make it a full-time position. So then we'll be able to serve 60 people instead of 50.
And your recidivism rate right now runs a little over 50%?
No, 22%. Mm-hmm. Our success rate, about 1 out of every 2 people makes it or doesn't make it, depending on if your glass is half full or half empty. So, but 1 out of 2 make it, yeah.
This position has a job description and
yes,
certain qualifications that you look
yes.
for, certain experiences that you look
yes.
for.
We actually used to have this position, but I had to lay him off because we lost the funding. So, and anybody that is hired, that would be said to them as well, because it does. Not only does it rely on the state grants, but it also relies on the Recovery Support Foundation's donations to us.
Well, last month you brought a gentleman up here, and it was going to be an intern
right.
plus part-time.
Right.
Is this
possibly?
Is this part of this?
Possibly. He's out right now. He's having hip replacement. We'll have to see how that goes. How all that goes.
But instead of doing what she had told you about previously, this would be replaced with this full-time position instead
right.
of the part-time contractual arrangement we were going to make.
Okay.
Right. Yeah,
all
the
right.
independent contractor, yes. So this would be a state employee, I mean a county employee, excuse me.
So then would you be using the same amount of part-time personnel this next fiscal year as you were planning on using this year?
Mm-mm.
Okay, then
No.
can I ask the obvious?
Mm-hmm.
You get the same amount then in for your part-time personnel this year as last, right?
Yes.
But you're not planning on using it all this
Oh,
year?
yeah, that same person, Kay.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your
Okay.
question. I thought you meant the full-time and another part-time.
No.
But no, we will still have the part-time person, yes. Yes. She doesn't want to be any more than that. She's very happy being part-time. And as I may or may not have stated to you last month, she's on task right now to bring in $30,000 just with that one class that we're doing, that she teaches. So, and
The
she does a
DUI
lot.
class?
Not the DUI class, what we call the LIOP. It's the Alcohol and Drug Intervention Program.
Okay.
Yeah, that we charge $325 for. She is, she's going to be covering her own salary with that. Plus, she does a lot more other stuff. I mean, she's the therapist for our DUI court program. I've been sick today. Y'all have to excuse me. I'm just, anyway, I know. I'm sorry.
All right. Any questions? Any comments?
As the mayor, have you gone over this?
Yes, sir, we've gone over this 2 or 3 times, and subject, the final approval of this money coming from the state, we recommend this budget.
Well, I'll make the same recommendation to forward this to budget.
I'll second it, providing the state comes through.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Hoping the state's going to come through. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
I hope it doesn't come back to us.
I do too.
Oh, no,
Can
thank
you make
y'all.
me a copy downstairs?
I'll take them through too.
Okay. Just leave it in Vicky's
It's not
chair
her,
if you
the
don't mind.
Recovery Foundation will. They're that good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Next is the ambulance service. Mike, I can see you brought in the big guns tonight.
I
brought in the person that knows the numbers. For those of
That's
you
what I
that-
said. I thought it was big gun.
Those of you that don't know Melanie, this is Melanie Machado. She's worked for us in accounts payable for how many years? 20? So,
22.
All right, welcome. Got your report?
you ready?
Yeah.
We made 1,853 calls last month. That's down just a little bit from what we've been doing. Average response time was 8 minutes, which was up a little bit from what we're normally doing. We had 31 coroner's calls, and 11 of those were sent for autopsy. We billed $1,185,112 and collected $554,348. It puts us on a yearly projected collection of $6,640,238, which is significantly above what we were budgeted for. We had insurance write-offs of $490,151, collection agency write-offs $375,382, and discount for county-related people, whether it be inmates or workers' comp, of $597. We had some vacancies in the supervisory positions, 12.6 24-hour shifts. We had to shut our transport team down for 10.5 hours one day and 11 hours another day, and for 2 hours at Burton Street. The table at the bottom of the page is the mileage and the cost, operating costs of the ambulances, fuel costs, as well as maintenance costs. We made a total of 33,596 miles. We drove a total. We had 498 calls out of zone, which is also down a little bit this month. On the next page, the various in-services and training throughout the ambulance service, as well as the activities of our different teams within the service. The REACT team listed 12 different things this month. TOPS team, 4 different things. And the SORT team has 15 things listed there.
What do you do at the preschool things?
We take an ambulance over there. Terry Cunningham does that primarily, and she's got different presentations for every age group.
Okay.
So, the preschools are fun. They actually they're all fun, especially preschool. When they send us a thank you letter, it's generally pictures that they've drawn. The next page is a response time report by the station. All those are up a little bit this month with the exception of Burton Street, and they're actually down a little bit. Following page is the monthly report broken down by commissioner districts. Also, the national calls are broken out. And then our transport team calls made a total of 34 critical transports, and then they answered 81 911 calls as well. So they had a total of 115 calls for the month. Next page is that same information year to date. And then the following page is the way that we keep up with our out-of-zone calls, so that we have each ambulance station and to which zone they responded. Just to give you an example, Salem is number 1, and they responded to zone 1, so naturally the number of calls would be higher there. So that has helped us a lot in trying to keep up with where we're going.
Let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
On Zone 4, which MTSU is 177, Then you had Burton running 38 and Salem running 8 calls in it, and then there was 143 from Manchester. So that 143 times Manchester Station went into MTSU's.
If you look down at the bottom of that column, Commissioner, you'll see that that's a total of 390 calls into that zone. That's probably going to come up a little bit later in the budget, so you might want to keep that number.
Well, there's something that kind of jumped out at me there.
It only ran 19 calls in its own zone.
Actually, that zone is a very
big.
It's a light zone, but they end up making a bunch of calls that just make it into different zones.
It's those 19 calls out there. If it wasn't there, it'd probably be some serious.
And we have a couple of thank you type notes. We had to deny a total of 96 hours for A shift and 0 hours for B shift and 36 hours for C shift, which means that we denied 132 hours of vacation for February. On the very next page, I want to call your attention to the fact that we did pay for 1,992.8 hours of vacation, so it's not like they're not able to take their vacation, it's just that sometimes we have to say no.
So during February, they actually took 1,992 hours. All right, is that all your report? Any questions on his report? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Question, just a question on it. Could you, like, next month, or put an overlay on here of showing where the zones are?
Sure.
Yeah, you just stick it on here somewhere, just so we can see. Because I know that, I was just wondering about Siegel. I know it's a little out, but it's still in the city, and I was wondering if.
Yeah, that'd be easy enough to do.
I've always wondered that myself. They got it on they got the fire zones on the GIS, but not the ambulance, and it's hard to picture where, because y'all have added so many stations.
They're actually on there, but it's just not really publicized much. If you ever by my office, I've got a big chart right behind the door. Yeah, but we can put it on there.
Just like this one, thank you.
I can't put them on there, but
Somebody, I know what you mean.
All right, got a budget amendment?
We do. We're requesting to transfer funds from patient charges to our refund account to cover overpayments. That's just simply where somebody pays the bill and the insurance company pays the bill, so we have to pay back. So that's really not an expenditure, but it looks like it. Due to increasing fuel costs, we're asking to transfer funds from our ending fund balance into the gasoline line item in the amount of $40,000. Right now, our projection shows us being about that, so that should take us through the end of the year.
All right, you've heard the request. Is there a motion?
You said gasoline. Is that diesel?
Yeah, it's fuel.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
I've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All right, discussion.
Have you noticed any reduction with our, we used to fill up at pits, and now we've got, we bid the fuel out, and we've got a couple locations. I didn't know if you could tell any difference in providing multiple locations versus one location in the county, and if that's saved us any money or kind of in that direction, if you've been able, because you're one of the bigger users of fuel, and I didn't know.
It has. It saved us some money. It's working out well. There has been some times when the pumps have gone down for one reason or the other, but the people are very responsive to that. They come in at whatever time they need to fix it. Where it's really, really made a difference is in accountability, so that we know exactly where the fuel was, how much was put into which vehicle and who put it in. And it's made the record keeping a lot easier for me.
Well, I know you do a really good job on the fuel per mile, and that's pretty, nobody else gives us a report that detailed, so that's, I was just wondering that, but.
No, that's been a good thing.
All right. We got a motion. We got a motion and a second. All right, call the roll.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes. And your budget.
Nick?
Yeah. There we go. We ain't got anything on
Not loaded on the device. I have one copy, so share this.
I don't have some.
Maybe you have all.
the, something.
Sure.
Got it. Becky will give you one.
I'll get
when we-
She got
When we finish, okay.
Maybe just go through and summarize each one?
Please.
If you're looking at this, the format's fairly common, I think, to all county departments. We do have an increase or a decrease over the previous year. Line items 101 through 212, we basically don't have any control over. Those are salary line items or line items that depend upon the salaries. So that's going to be due to the pay plan or due to step increases or those kind of things, or whatever you all vote on. So we really don't have any, there's not been any new positions added. So unless you just want me to talk about one of those, I'll move on.
205.
205.
Just more people have signed up.
It's just, that's our best estimate of what the finance department said. With the
Oh.
mix of people he has, what the cost will be.
Okay. That includes all of our favorite insurance plan that's going through this year.
All of that's subject to further discussion, but based on our current information, this is our best estimate.
Okay.
In line item 307, that is our communication account that we pay for the telephone and various computer lines. That's we were asking for an increase of $11,000 over what we asked for last year, and that's due strictly to the fact that AT&T continues to raise their rates. I don't know much more about that. Melanie probably does, but the person that knows more about it is Brian Robertson. So he can tell you more about that than I can.
We bid that out, don't we, Mike?
He's getting ready to bid it out. I think we bid it out too, but the mayor may want to get in here. I think the mayor told me that he read something where that AT&T figured out they weren't charging enough to begin with, and so now they're raising the rates on some of these Metro E circuits and those kind of.
It's complicated, and I don't understand it all, but, you know, we improvised over the years with some of these T1 lines or something, and they gave us a better deal than really they should have, but we benefited over the several early years. Now they've discovered this, so it looks like we're going to have to start paying additional
dispatch
charge
at
for
the
those
station.
things that likely we should have paid even before, but we didn't.
Yeah.
What you're saying, though, is this will be bid out in the coming year?
I don't know about that.
So it's
honestly.
possible it could be less than what we're looking at, or?
We'd have to change providers, and I'm not sure we can do that.
I don't think you can those T1 lines and stuff like that that go from the dispatch to the console to the stations and stuff for the ringtones and all that stuff. I don't think you can bid that kind of stuff out. I think that's actually the phone company.
I think that, yeah, it is, but I think Brian is trying to negotiate, I believe
Yeah,
is what he says.
That piece he's trying to do, and work
Yeah.
on that part of it.
And we hope he's successful because as you can see, it went up 33% in 1 month.
So the increase is not on your cell phones, this is on your radio, or this is your hardware in the offices?
This is just the telephone accounts. It doesn't include the...
Just the telephone.
And I believe everybody is facing that, not just the county. So I think all IT and communications is increasing rapidly.
Line item 312 is contract with private agencies. There's an increase of $24,810 there. This year we've had to add our mobile gateway maintenance contract. That's the thing that goes in the ambulance that ties everything together and permits us to send EKGs, transmit EKGs, and so forth like that. We replaced all those last year, but the price of those has gotten to the point that we need to have warranty coverage or a maintenance contract. Also, we have asked one of the two-way mobile radio agencies here to give us a price for a maintenance contract on that. As you'll see later, we're probably going to have some drastic changes in our radio coverage this coming year with the changing of structure, infrastructure, and computer-aided dispatch and those things. We'll talk more about that when we get to those line items. And so that may not be, and we may not end up spending that money, but the increase is exactly the $6,000 and the $18,810. Evaluation and testing. Thanks to Ms. Sonia Stevenson, who has taken over some of our expenses on drug and alcohol testing. We're able to lower that $10,000 this year, and we would have been able to lower it more, but I know some of you on this committee are familiar with the fact that people who are working in hazardous materials are required to have that $400 physical every year, so that starts this year. In fact, started this month. So that's going to be an increased cost in that line item. But still with that, we're able to decrease it $10,000. Maintenance and repair on buildings, that's $335. Our buildings are getting older each time. We know for sure that we have to replace the roof on the Smyrna station this year. So we've asked for a $15,000 increase. We expect that the cost of the roof is going to be about $10,000 in Smyrna, and the other $5,000 is just our best guess. That's one air conditioning unit, basically.
What kind of roof is that?
It's one of those steep pitched roofs. This is the building that Stonecrest, when it was located over on Enid Springs.
It's not metal,
No.
shingle.
Line item 338 is maintenance and repair service on vehicles. We're asking for an increase of $50,000 over what we had last year. Presently, we're projecting that we're going to be over on that budget, although not quite $50,000. But it covers 25 ambulances and 4 specialty units and 15 administrative vehicles and 1 maintenance truck. It also covers the water rescue vehicles and trailers and so forth that we use over at the SORT. The state inspects our vehicles twice a year. They're very picky with their inspections, and something as slight as even an abrasion on the vinyl seat would cause them to fail an ambulance. But regardless of that, 15 of our 25 ambulances have over 150,000 miles on them. So that's our best estimate.
What brings it from having 1 to 2? There's a mileage threshold in there? 150?
It's 175.
175.
And we try to give them to somebody else when they get 175,000
Right.
miles.
You're putting 4,000 miles a month and 3,000 miles a month on that report. They're moving.
Line item 340 is it's called medical and dental services, but well, the only thing that we pay out of that account is we pay our medical director, who's Dr. Russ Galloway, and we just requested a 3% increase since he hasn't received an increase in a number of years now. He doesn't make a lot of money, as you can see, but he does a good job for us. Pest control is the same as it was last year. Postal charges has been decreased $3,000 primarily because we don't have as much postage now that we have a billing service. Same thing for printing and stationery and forms. We decreased that $2,000. We requested the same amount in travel, even though we haven't really used a whole lot of travel this year. Other contracted services is what we pay our collection agency to collect our accounts. So that's based, we pay them 5% of what they collect, and the better job they do, the more our fee is to pay them. So we're anticipating that they're going to collect more money, and therefore we'll have to pay them more money.
Thank you. Did you say 5%, Mike? I thought it was 50%.
No, we're not. This is not a collection agency. This is a billing service.
They do. Okay.
And it was bid, and they were the low bidder, and they've done a terrific job.
But they got to get over a certain amount, right? Or does it increase when it gets over a certain amount?
I don't remember that, Commissioner. Do you remember?
I thought it was just 5%.
I think it's just 5%. We got a really good deal on that because I know that I was talking with Coffee County, and I've got to go down there and talk with them again tomorrow. But they took a different bidder than we did, and they're paying them 15%, and their collections are down.
And our collections have increased substantially. I mean, and when they increase, I mean, we won't spend this money unless our collections increase. We hope they increase, and we hope we have to spend this money to pay them.
But don't take an ambulance to Coffee County tomorrow.
No, I'm not sure. Custodial supplies, that's just the custodial supplies for all of our buildings. That's the same as it was last year, $16,000. Data processing supplies, the same as it was for last year, $10,300. Drugs and medical supplies got an increase there of $37,025. I don't know if I can explain this correctly or not, but I'll try. Several months or even years back, the federal government changed its standards for things like parts per million piece of glass that could be involved in drugs. So what happened was a lot of drug companies said, well, we can't retail for $1.25 amp of epinephrine, so they quit making it. So now what's happened is that all medical entities are faced with shortages in being able to get drugs. Ambulance services are a smaller user of those drugs, and so it's even more difficult for us to go. So we're doing whatever we can. The State Department of EMS is doing what they can. Both hospitals in the county, Stonecrest and Middle Tennessee Medical Center, work very closely with us, helping us because since they belong to bigger companies, they can have more readily access to it. So they're assisting us with that. But the bottom line is that it's just costing us more money. So I don't know where that's going to go or whether we'll get any relief from that or not. But that's the situation as it stands, and it's kind of scary and sometimes because we're not talking about just the difference between a generic drug and a name brand drug. We're talking about drugs that are required for life support.
Has that something to do with Obamacare?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with Obamacare. It just hasn't. It was a change in the way that the government or the Food and Drug Administration said that they wanted their standards, and they basically narrowed their standards down and eliminated some of the low-cost drug suppliers. I'll be real honest with you. We can't get D50W, which is the only drug that you can use with any reliability of success in the field for diabetics that are having a hypoglycemic attack. You know, we're using other things, but D50 is the drug of choice there, and the success rate with these other things are not what it should be. As I said, the hospitals they understand our plight, and they're helping us out all they can. But when you can't get epinephrine, and when you can't get D50W, then that's scary on an ambulance. But that's the reason for our increase there. We're having difficulty getting drugs. We're having to pay more for it.
Have y'all looked at the possibility of talking to the insurance companies that are insuring these people? I'm curious as they've got a vested interest in keeping those people healthy.
I haven't talked to them, but I understand what you're saying, and I'm sure that it's not just ambulance services; it's everybody in the medical field, and so I'm sure that there are lots of conversations going on about this very thing. It could come down to we have to order drugs from a foreign country. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, part of the reason I don't want to just let that lie with saying people are being unreasonable. How many people died here in Tennessee due to a drug company putting some bad drugs out on the market? 112, something like that, just in this state. So I mean, it's important that we have these drugs tested thoroughly.
I agree.
They come from, all right.
But I think some of these benchmarks that they've set now are, well, they're unrealistic. I don't know if they're unrealistic or not, but what I do know is that the companies that are manufacturing the drugs feel like that rather than have to retool and do everything different in order to meet those standards, it's just not worth their time to fool with it. So that basically caused a shortage.
Just a small piece of why healthcare costs continue to escalate.
Because the government's taking care of us?
It's
Is that
an
what it is?
unfunded mandate from the federal government that you'll meet these standards, and ultimately, individuals have to pay for it.
Our account number 425, which is named gasoline, but includes fuel, all fuels. As you saw tonight, we asked for increase. We asked for a budget increase, and that's reflected in this budget. So we've asked for $50,000 more. We transferred just a minute ago $40,000.
Do you have any idea what you based your cost of diesel and gasoline on last year? I mean,
no, last year was very similar to this year. You know, it was just all over the place, and at least
you got to use some when you come up with it. You figure.
To be honest with you, how would you do it? You know, when fuel is going from $4.85 one month to $2.50 the next month, it's all over the board, and you don't have any clue, or at least I don't have any clue what it's going to be next month. I don't know where it's going. I do know that it came down 20 cents since last week, and I'm glad it did.
It went up 50 cents in the month before
right,
that. So.
Exactly.
You're right. There's just no way to gauge it whatsoever. I mean,
you know, they used to pretty much have a reason for, you know, something went wrong over in one of the countries, or a refinery broke or something. But now I don't think they even give a reason anymore.
well, you plan for the worst and hope for the best. That's all you can do. So.
Natural gas. Ambulances, right?
We'll talk about that in a minute, but we do have some thoughts in that direction. Instructional supplies and materials, it's the same as last year, $9,050. Office supplies, same as last year. That includes office supplies for all of our buildings. Uniforms is the same as last year. We're beginning to see the good things happen from our quartermaster system. We implemented that 3 years ago, I think. And so what's happened now is we've got our stock up to where it needs to be, and it is replaced on a regular basis. And so actually our costs are going down. If you notice, we've only spent $17,095 this year, So we're probably not gonna spend the $75,000, and we won't spend it unless we need to. But I really don't know what to do for next year.
And that's such a hard thing to gauge, because if somebody gets blood on them, and that could be every call they go on, it could be nightmarish if it.
The only thing I can do is just tell you that we will do our best. We're not going to spend it if we don't need to spend it. The utility cost is increased of $2,000 over last year. Our projection right now indicates that we're probably going to be underfunded in that account, about $1,500 for the year, which is actually a pretty minuscule number, but that's our best guess. There's 14 buildings that the utilities cover. Account number 499 is the account that we use to purchase battery chargers, batteries, various accessories for the radios. It includes radios, portable radios. We are anticipating actually seeing that we're having to replace some televisions at some of our stations. So I think you remember several years ago we replaced all 6 of our dispatch chairs, and it's getting to the point where they need to be replaced, but I think what we ought to do is replace about 2 of those each year until we get that done. So that includes $2,600 for that. And it also includes $8,000 for furniture to furnish a new ambulance station. So the total increase over last year is $23,100. Judgments, we didn't have any money in that last year. Ms. Nolan recommends that we put $10,000 in there just to be safe, so she feels like we need something in there. So we put $10,000 in there, and that indicates an increase of $10,000 over previous year since we didn't have anything in it. Refunds are the same as it was last year. The Trustees Commission is increased by $6,838. That's anticipating that we're going to collect more money. The in-service and staff development is the same as it was last year, $12,725. Other charges, which is primarily the budget for SORT and the community relations team, is the same as it was last year, $70,000.
That's scholarship fund. How much is actually in it?
Right now, there's a $6,690 that's in there. Now, that's really not an expenditure. We have to show that.
I know, but you get some in from the outside, right?
We get it all in. We don't. It's not a county expenditure, but we have to show it as an expenditure. But we'll get money from various sources. Middle Tennessee Medical Center and Stonecrest both make contributions to that each year, and we have had contributions from individuals and other.
So if you get more, you send more to paramedic training, or you allow more to go?
We try to offer 3 a year, and if we have more applicants than we do scholarships, then we make up a board. In fact, Commissioner Farley's been on that board a time or two, and they make the recommendations. We don't make them. So
it's a good program.
Yeah, even though it's shown as an expenditure, it's truly not. That's not tax money. The next one is the one I've been referring to, 706. With the growth and the additional ambulance runs and the strain that's been put on MTSU station, we've gone back and checked, and our call volume has increased about 11% each fiscal year for the last 2 years, and we expect it's probably going to do that for this year too. At the same time, our response time is not going up drastically, but it is inching up just a little bit each time, if you noticed. So we think that we're probably time to be looking at putting another ambulance in. I'm not prepared to tell you exactly where it needs to go yet, but wherever it goes, it's going to impact NTSC station. It has to. That would all be dependent on final determination of where, and also at being able to find property at a donated price or reasonable. And if all that fell into place, we would spend that money to build an ambulance station. If that didn't work, then there's a couple of other things that we are thinking about. One of them is that our sort building has become very popular with all the public safety agencies in town because of the ability to teach classes over there and so forth. When we originally built that building, we didn't include the living quarters, which was originally designed in the building plans to be on the very back side of the building. So since we couldn't do that, or we didn't feel like we could at that time, we changed some of the office space up close, up in the front of the building, so that the people who are on shift for 24 hours have a place to sleep. But the building is so heavily used that they don't get to sleep very much. They don't get very much rest. And so at some point we need to think about completing those quarters in the back of the building to give them a little bit more privacy. And then the other thing is that according to the Middle Tennessee Medical Center, as soon as they get some issues worked out with NTSU, then they were going to kind of want to put everything together, but they're going to give us the PACE Center and all the land that's over there so that we can build a new ambulance station, a more modern ambulance station at Burton Street, and renovate the PACE Center for administrative stuff. And so there's several things. I don't know which one of them is going to happen, and I'm certainly not asking you to fund all three of them because you couldn't make all three of those things work in a year anyway. But
with that Burton Street, the ambulances, there's an issue there with ambulances fitting in the building, and new ambulances that eventually we won't be able to even fit anything in that. And that's in my district, and I'm kind of familiar with that situation, so that at some point we're going to have to do something with Burton Street because we won't even be able to house anything in there once these ambulances. It's just.
You're exactly right. We're going to talk about that in just a minute too.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to jump the gun.
It's okay, but I'm glad you are aware of that because it does present a problem. So the increase there is $250,000.
Whatever we do there will require further discussions by public safety and property management before we really settle on which one of these, if any one of them, we actually move forward.
On item 708 is communication equipment. The big expense there is to replace our consoles and dispatch. I know all of you are familiar with the fact that we replaced the consoles and dispatch at the sheriff's office last year. And our equipment is the same equipment that he had, and it's no longer being supported by the manufacturer, so it could go out at any time. And if it goes out at any time, unless we're able to find parts on the black market, then we won't be able to get parts to fix it.
Is there any way that 911 board would?
No. 911 board, when they made that contribution for the sheriff's office, felt like that they had made the contribution to the county, realizing that not only was the sheriff's department in need, but the ambulance service was in need as well. When we had the meeting at the sheriff's department, I volunteered to say, y'all go ahead and get yours fixed first, but with the understanding that you're going to have to do the ambulance service at some point. Now, here's what the 911 board is going to do. The 911 board is going to contribute about $65,000 to completely replace our computer-aided dispatch program at the dispatch, and which then will allow us to ride off of the city's Vision Air program, which is going to be a very, very good thing for us. And then 911 is going to fund that in its entirety.
I hate to bring this up in this subject, but is there any way we could consolidate the dispatches into one PSAP?
There's a way.
I mean, to me, it's just a whole lot more efficient consolidating government instead of having one here and then picking up the phone and transferring the call here. And I don't know if we need to have a study group or to look at that or what we need to do there, but that's.
I agree with you.
It only makes sense now. I want the same standard of care that your dispatchers are providing now if it was consolidated, preferably the same dispatchers just under.
Are you talking about combining the cities?
No,
and
the
what?
county governments into one
Okay,
dispatch.
I want to be clear. I want to make sure.
Okay, thank you. Well, we can't control what the cities do, but we can control what the counties do, and I don't know how we get that discussion rolling and at least do a study on it.
Well, we sort of studied this previously when we did this with the sheriff's office. There's not enough space down there to house 6 more positions. I mean, until we do the whole thing for the sheriff's, you might say major expansion, there's not enough room down there to do it.
I will say this, is that probably in 5 years, everything that we're doing right now is going to be completely outdated. Your study group might be a good idea for 5 years down the road, and Commissioner Farley.
Together somewhere else, probably, or when we build the major addition at the sheriff's office. We put off, we hope, 3 to 5 or more years with this little.
And these consoles can be
relocated
and picked up and moved. I just want to look, I got to look 30 years down the road for myself, and that's what I want to see,
There's really not a reason. I know that you end up in turf battles and so forth, but there's no reason why one dispatch center couldn't dispatch this whole county, cities,
including
counties,
the other
everybody.
municipalities.
I agree.
Probably never will happen, but it could be done, and it is being done in a number of other locations.
Too many turfs.
Well, like I said, we can only control what we can only control. We can control our county government.
So you got in other areas away from Rutherford County, you've got other jurisdictions that have got that utilize the 911 board and the 911 monies to be able to fund and operate these dispatch centers. And there's territorial turf.
According to the state law in Tennessee that allowed the 911 districts to exist, the money collected by the 911 districts can be spent on anything up to and including the point of dispatch.
And you're on that board, I take it. You and the sheriff, the mayor, some of the local municipalities have.
Fire chief and
each one of them has a representative on the board.
Well, that has brought a lot of revenue in this county that we don't have to spend out.
Well, 911 board has been extremely beneficial to all of us that are in the that have PSAPs.
One thing they're providing is tremendous ability for us to go over there and use those facilities when one of ours is down for whatever particular reason, and they're expanding and even making that better. So 2 of us could be in there as soon as they add these additional consoles. Any 2 jurisdictions could be using their center as a backup. So it's very much needed.
How many consoles do you have on at one time, I guess?
The ambulance service?
Yes, sir.
4.
4? Okay. I knew that's increased over time. I remember when it was just 2, so.
We have 4, and we have a place for a 5th one, but we don't staff that.
There was talk at one time where between the city and the county, and the city was going to give the building, but we had one person that didn't want to do it.
It only takes one person not wanting to play. So,
Yeah.
But like I said, we can only control Rutherford County government, and that's what I want to look at least in the future and have a plan and direction. And if it takes 5 years or 7 years or 10 years because of growth, I would like to see that. It just makes more sense to have that in the future. So I'm sorry I bring all that up in the budget, but that kind of goes hand in hand with that line item.
That's the increase there is $229,160. That is that includes 4 radios for 4 new ambulances, which is roughly $20,000, $19,160. And it also includes new consoles for communication center at $225,000, and that was the figure that Joe Gurley recommended that we put in. Data processing equipment is an increase of $36,800. This line item, we replace all four the dispatch computers each year. It doesn't mean that we replace them in dispatch, but then they get funneled back into. Those are our most critical computers at the ambulance service, and it's the advice of our IT department that since they are the most critical, those are the ones that need to be the newer ones. And we don't just throw those computers away. They get put back into service. They may go to an ambulance station, or maybe become Melanie's computer or something like that. But that includes that. It also includes 4 new in-motion gateways and laptops for the 4 ambulances I mentioned a minute ago. We need to purchase a server for our communication center, and that has to do with that Visionaire new computer-assisted dispatch. And we probably need to replace about 4 of our laptops this year. That's $14,000. And the enterprise agreement with Microsoft, 8 of those at $1,330 each is $10,700. That's a relatively new figure, but it's a figure that has been being paid, I guess, out of Brian's office. I'm not sure, but makes it more reflective of who's actually using the service. Motor vehicles, an increase of $481,000. We're requesting to buy 3 new ambulances. We feel like that cost will be in the neighborhood of $354,000. And we are requesting to be able to remount 1 ambulance. What that means is that you take the box off the ambulance and put a new truck under it. Commissioner Young mentioned that we have a problem at Burton Street, and we do. The type of ambulance that fits in Burton Street, from a physical standpoint, they're no longer manufacturing, and they can't manufacture it. But the permit for that ambulance stays with the box and not the truck. So the only way that we're ever going to be able to replace the ambulance at Burton Street is to replace the truck and keep the box. So that's a remount. So we've put a lot of time and effort into looking into that to see how we could take care of that little issue we have, and that's in the immediate future. That's the only thing that we can do. They're much better now at remounting ambulances than they used to be. We have had some remounted in the past, not so successfully, but they're much better at that now. There's a company in Chevrolet that is doing it, and willing to guarantee it. So. And I've seen some of the work that they've done. Looks like a brand new ambulance when you get it done. They replace everything in it, floor, cabinetry, and all.
Well, if I recall, that was the plan originally when we decided to let you go to that style ambulance. One of the selling points was that we could put a new truck.
You're exactly
and keep
right.
the box.
And what happened was when we first started trying to do that, then what we found out was putting a 7 or 8 year old box on a new truck, and the box had been down the road a lot of miles, and it was pretty much shook all to pieces. But the manufacturing of the box is more sturdy now, and I think it's time that we gave it another shot. And it could be that we'll end up saving money that way in the future. But it would be a good way to find out, because there's not anything else we'll do at Burton Street rather than do that.
What is this boat? And I know Chris is back here, so he might be able to explain it better. Is it a new boat? Are we replacing a boat? Or?
It's not a replacement boat. In the summers, particularly, but not limited to just the summers, but particularly in the summers, we end up being called Percy Priest Lake quite a bit. The boats that we have are basically rafts, and they're not designed to do what we need to do down there. So Chris has asked for a different type of boat to use there. We actually tried to trade Laverne out of their boat, because they do have a boat that they're not using. they wanted to trade it for AEDs, and we felt like that the number of AEDs they were requesting for the boat was worth more than the boat was worth. And Chris may want to come up here and explain it further. The type of boat he's requesting is a center console mounted boat, much like the one that the city of Laverne has.
It's not like the one Metro sank the other day.
So Laverne has got a boat they're not using, and we're needing a boat to go into their territory.
Actually, Laverne only patrols a certain small part of that lake. The city limits of Laverne, they have quite a bit of shoreline, but access to the lake itself is very limited for Laverne. They had a program down there where they were patrolling the lake on the weekends, and at some point in time, the city council or the chief of police or somebody down there decided that they didn't want to do it anymore, so they parked the boat. And we asked them to give it to us. You know, of course, we asked for donations for everything.
Can you help us out?
Yeah.
And they
What about
responded.
the rescue squad down here? Don't they have one, or didn't they have one?
The rescue squad, the only thing they've ever had is aluminum V-bottom boats that they use to drag the lake. I think they've had people donate boats to the rescue squad before, power boat basically, with the idea that they would then sell that boat and use the money. So they may have had some temporarily, but I don't think they've ever used a bigger boat. Is that right?
That's correct. We've exhausted our efforts in applying for grants, and we've done this over many years. However, our call volume continues to increase, and I don't know if you visited Percy Priest Lake or the rivers or things like that in from January to the next January. It's increasingly, traffic's increasing there. We're continuing to have multiple calls in boating accidents. Just last year, we lost a personal friend out there in a boating accident, and we don't have any fire protection there. So one of the things is that I want to work with the fire departments, and we have no rescue efforts as far as a plane crashing in that lake. As you well know, Smyrna Airport is located at the end of that runway. During air shows, we patrol that area as well. It's just an increasing call volume there, and I feel like that to be able to get our equipment, our personnel, and also to retrieve those patients in that lake, I've exhausted every effort that I know how to put this into the county budget.
Is there any way we could go for a surplus boat?
I've attempted. I've contacted TWRA, looking at state surplus boats. As you well know, they're like ambulances. They're on the lake every day. Their motors are worn out. Their hulls are beat up. This is something that I feel is very, very important. We have a lot of recreational fishing, camping on islands. Just the other day we were called there for a sinking boat, and the gentleman was in the water, and the water was 48 degrees. So it's become a vital necessity for those areas.
And I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news on trying to go for a surplus boat, but if we get an $8,000 motor on a brand new motor on a surplus boat,
I agree.
We did it on a tanker with a 500,000 miles. So I just want to be.
I agree. I reassure you. You can contact TWRA. I've talked to them many times. Ms. Faye Elam, she's wrote grants for us. Now we've done everything we know how to do.
What about through the military? I know they have a surplus, and Mr. Davidson probably knows more about that than.
In fact, Nashville received a military, is a bridge building type watercraft. These, we've looked at it all. I had a lady, Miss Faye even found us a boat, and that we thought we maybe be able to negotiate once I went up there. It was a racing boat. That's probably not very functional for what we use. So You know, we right now we have a 17-foot inflatable rescue boat that we received probably about 12 years ago. That's what we're operating out of. Any good wind, it leaves us off a mark, meaning that we use a sonar, and it runs by GPS, and we X-ray the bottom of the lake. And at any time, a good gust of wind on that little bitty boat, it puts us off kilter, and it pushes us off another track.
I'm gonna go somewhere that probably is not gonna be politically whatever. But we give the city, commissioner, I know you live in Laverne, don't take this the wrong way, but we give Laverne.
I will.
two fire engines over the last few years. Laverne's sitting down there with a boat that they're not using, that we can utilize for their territory. I just don't, we need some
Is there a
help
way
here.
we can work together on that, maybe?
Well, we've discussed those issues. However, we have requested that boat a couple of times. That boat sits outside, and therefore, yes, it's winterized. But over the last few years, we've called for assistance, and it wouldn't start. That's a fact. Not to disrespect the city of Laverne, and things do happen. I understand that. We need to have a boat that's ready to go at a moment's notice.
I'd rather pay a slip fee for their boat to be on the water, and then you just if we can utilize it,
If they would give us a boat, we would make it usable.
I think there are all kinds of options that have been sort of tossed out here, used boats, surplus boats, Laverne's boat. We won't spend $57,000 until we've exhausted every avenue, including serious discussions again with the city of Laverne. So give us a bit of flexibility to use some really good, sound reasoning and judgment before we move forward with.
Let me throw something else out there for you to look at.
Sure.
Let me throw something else out there for you to look at. There's about a 2-mile stretch of road on Jones Mills that goes down to Pool Knob. Well, with all the agreements whenever they were done with the Corps and where the city limits were going and all this, and they went to TDOT, through our legislators, to try and get that paved down there because it sorely needs it. But TDOT says they can't touch it or anything like this. Well, why can't we look from this standpoint of, I don't see why they can't waive stuff in this state. They come up with all this other stuff that we get stuck with. Maybe they can do something for us. We got a highway department where we could pave on that road some, or at least repair it and get a boat out of that way. And if we get it, then we make it work.
So is that a county road?
It's a city road of Laverne, right?
The county.
Well, I know, that's what I say, we gotta get a waiver. I mean,
by state statute cannot touch anything but a county road. But we'll evaluate that.
I like the mayor's assessment on, we're not gonna spend the money unless we absolutely have
Absolutely.
to. And I appreciate Chris coming up here and explaining it to us better and kind of just.
Where, is it basically only Percy Priest that you go on?
We run, and when we look at Mona, all the way to the county line, which is Hobson Pike Bridge, to give you an idea, all the way up to West Fort, probably about a mile or two above West Fort Boat Ramp. We respond, and then before that, upriver, that's where our 17-foot zone road goes to.
But what I'm getting at is you don't ever take it out and go down to Tim's Ford or something.
Well, we are called to mutual aid. Not every county has a diver. Not everybody has a sonar, and therefore we have to make if there's a mutual aid call at that point. And that was one of the reasons why I turned this into a Homeland Security grant application. And we are not part of the Nashville port. However, we respond to the Nashville port, and I've been battling that for a while.
In the past, we've responded our teams and our boats to the floods in Nashville, and we responded to Bradford County. Was it Bradford County where that guy
That was the
No.
tornadoes.
But anyway, you know, we responded our swiftwater teams and our rafts and those kind of things. I don't know if it was true or not, but it was said in Nashville that we transported more people out of the floodwaters than any other team down there with our 15-foot boat. So.
Went to the flood in Laverne too, didn't we?
What about trading boats? There was, you know, I trust y'all can come up with a solution. I just wanted to make the point of, you know, we got a lot of.
I think if you'll just all agree that the need is really there, and give us an opportunity to see how we can best meet that need.
Sounds good to me.
I need to ask a really dumb question, and it is dumb, I'm so sorry, but that lake doesn't belong to us, right? What are we doing on it to start with? Laverne said, you know, we can be on it, but we're not going to be on it anymore. Why don't we just say it? We're not going to go on it anymore.
The majority of our citizens use that as the recreational area. And when 911 rings, it rings to our PSAPs. And therefore,
yeah, but what I'm saying, do we have to be on that lake? That's what I'm saying. Do we have a responsibility?
Yes, sir.
Dry land in Rutherford County, we run ambulances on. It belongs to Rutherford County. But the lake does not belong to Rutherford County, correct?
It is it is a Corps lake. It's a Corps of Engineers lake.
That's what I'm saying. Do we have to be on that lake?
Yes, sir, we do.
According to who?
According to our citizens. It's our responsibility to cover those areas. It's our citizens that are there. I don't think the Corps has the capability of handling those type of situations. And we have, as long as I've been in this business, and I don't mean to try, we've always covered that territory.
What if we stop?
It's in Rutherford County.
What if we stop?
And then we're going to have a lot of injured patients that are going to be out there with no help.
There could be, in my opinion, there could be a negligence issue there where if someone is in a boating accident inside Rutherford County on that lake within our jurisdiction and we don't respond, to me there could be a negligence issue as far as not responding to an emergency. That's kind of where I see it.
Is all that lake, how about the other side? Does it touch Wilson?
It touches Wilson, Rutherford, and Nashville, and Davis.
Does Wilson have a boat out there?
Yes, sir, and they have such a small territory.
I knew that was coming.
And they pretty much patrol or they respond to Old Hickory Lake. We have an area in southern Rutherford County on I-24 that's in Bedford County. That is such a small area that we respond to. The same thing in Wilson County in that small area, Long Hunter State Park program. That's in Wilson County, but it's less than a mile strip.
Chris, if you get me with me later, I think I've got a federal grant that I'm pretty sure it would be a matching, but talk to me later and I'll get with you on that.
I appreciate your time.
One more thing, Chris.
I'm not sure I'm completely satisfied with all of that discussion and question. You know, every boat that goes in that lake has to be licensed. Who gets that money?
TWRA.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, you guys. You know, we're saying that it's not our lake. We put our property on it. It doesn't belong to us.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Phillips, all of this land in Rutherford County doesn't belong to Rutherford County. It belongs to individuals. And when they have a problem on their property or wherever they're using their vehicle, we respond. I mean, that's
the interstate. It's a federal highway.
It's a federal highway. All these roads are not ours, but we have a duty to respond to them through the EMA, and now the sheriff is here with some answers, it appears, and our EMS. So this is part of what the EMA is all about. I mean, this whole structure of how we're supposed to respond to these kinds of emergencies.
From the end of May to the 1st of October, we have Marine Patrol that patrols the lake just about every weekend during holidays. So we have a boat that's out there just about all the time. As much as we can as officers will allow. It's all paid overtime. but we do have a responsibility because we do have people call in sinking boats in the middle of the night.
And the Corps actually pays that overtime?
No, not exactly on this. They pay us to patrol the boat ramps, and they pay all that at overtime. But actually, to have someone on the lake, we have to, I believe we go first of next month, we have to go to TWRA classes because we have to be certified by TWRA. They require us to come down and get certified to write tickets for BUIs on the lake and doing other things. So we have to go through their certification, but us, Metro, are the big ones that are on the lake right now that patrol quite a bit.
Okay, I have a better understanding now. Explain the roads and the highways.
Great question. There's 95 counties in the state.
Yes, sir.
And they're coming up with something about insurance or something on ambulances. Does every one of those 95 counties either have an ambulance service or contract with somebody?
Yes.
Everyone does.
There's legislation, I guess is what you're talking about, that would basically recognize EMS as a third service. In other words, it would require the county to provide the service. It doesn't say how it has to provide it.
It says shall, the legislation is that they shall provide, the county provide that, and municipalities may, but the county has to, in some form or fashion.
And all 95 counties are providing ambulance service in some form or fashion right now, so it would impact everybody.
That's
just curious.
Matter of fact, they've done the fiscal movie
You ready for office equipment?
Yeah.
We're not requesting any office equipment this year. So we have a $9,700 decrease in that line item. Health equipment, we have an increase of $140,620. This would include one EMS state-approved ventilator. We replaced one last year that was no longer approved for this year. We need one more. That's $14,420. One simulation mannequin for education, which is $8,000. The big items here are 12 cardiac monitors. Remember, we replaced 13 cardiac monitors last year through a grant from Christy Houston. We need 12 more to have the same brand and new monitors in all 25 of our ambulances. We're requesting 30 AEDs that would be able to put one AED in each ambulance and also one in each administrative vehicle. $96,000 and 10 in-motion internet gateways for $25,000. We replaced all of our first line ambulances last year. All of the older ones went into our backup ambulances, so what we're trying to do is have all the ambulances with the same equipment in it. It makes it a lot easier. We need to replace 2 of our stair chairs, which is a piece of equipment where you can take somebody up and down the stairs without having to hurt yourself. And 4 stretchers for the 4 new ambulances that we previously mentioned, which would be $24,920.
The stair chairs are worth their weight in gold, and they save on back injuries. I can attest to that.
When workers' comp, we pay for
You're exactly right. One injury is paid for.
When you got 3- and 4-story apartment buildings, it's not fun carrying somebody down.
Is that the budget that you got? Or is there any questions on Mike's budget?
I've got a lot, but we could spend the rest of the night here, but.
Okay, right now, what is your fund balance in designated for public welfare? I think that's what it is. Isn't that what it's called in yours?
I don't know what it's called. You're talking about the reserve?
Yeah, and undesignated fund balance or whatever.
Mayor probably going to have to help me here.
I think it is reserved.
More than $3 million.
Yeah.
There's somewhere on here that said $5 million somewhere. Or was that on your budget amendment that we saw reserved for public?
Is that where you're anticipating the extra comes from? Or are you looking at
Just make
development
recommend-
tax or?
No, we're not, it's coming out of his budget. We're not gonna take any development tax.
Okay, so it's not gonna be an increase in the
And let me
property
say
tax?
this one
in
other
his
thing. There are 2 or 3 things on here that strategically, we will have some more serious discussions about maybe asking for some outside funding for that, okay? And it's likely that we'll get some of this funded from additional foundational source. So I just want, this won't all come out of this. We're gonna make a reasonable effort to be prudent and judicious about how we ask for this money. We don't, but we will ask for 1 or 2 of these items or more to get some help from the local foundation.
Is this a budget that may need to wait and find out what the revenue is going to be and other factors like that, or
No, we don't, we don't have to wait now. We're not, we have the dollars to do this with, but I'm just telling you, we're gonna get hopefully a few $100,000 from another source.
Okay. I guess
These
it's,
capital expenditures, what appear to be capital expenditures, like the building, the things on that last page, like the cardiac monitors, and those kind of things, I think we can get some help.
And with that being said, on help from other organizations, if there's another department in this county that can get that help from that same organization, because they have their own funds, some departments don't have self-revenue generating thing. I'd like to see us try the other avenues with the other departments that are cash strapped, because they do have a revenue source coming in, and not use grant sources for their department because they have the revenue come in. I'd rather us see to
But you have to ask.
use those sources
ask
to
for
the
those
other
monies
departments.
For those things that that organization typically thinks it's in their best interest to make those
And it's all in
contributions
how you,
toward.
it's all in how
about
you word
really
it.
Thinking through the whole thing carefully.
so what I'm assuming here is, I mean, would this also your recommendation as
Yeah.
well?
Right now it is. It's
Okay.
subject to several more discussions as we go through the budgeting process. It's just our best approach at this moment.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that this is my standpoint, maybe I won't get a second, but we're talking a 12% increase. I would like, instead of getting, use round figures, that's what, and I would like to be able to take it under advisement for myself until next month, because nothing's gonna happen budget-wise before our April meeting. And just to get it in my own mind and give a chance to, see if you can work some things out. So I'd like to just defer this till next month, and all we need next month then, I think, basically is a vote yea or nay on it, or whatever. And that's my motion.
All right, we got a motion and we got a second on the floor. Our discussion.
Where was the second?
Robert.
I think that's a good motion, a wise motion. I think there's a lot of stuff here. It's all needed. There's no doubt about it. It's needed. The Pay Center is a big question. The building, and maybe Mr. Nunley can bring back some better questions there on the $250,000. And no matter what, $250,000 is probably going to cover in addition to the sort building and either a new station or fixing the Pay Center situation. And there's a lot of stuff there that a month you might be able to help us out with and kind of sway us.
These other revenue sources, are we going to know any more a month from now than they are?
What other revenue sources?
That was talking, as
You
far as.
mean an outside source?
Outside sources,
A foundation to make that
Are
contribution?
are we going to know anything any
Well-
different? I don't think we are. Within a month.
We won't know for sure, absolutely not.
Not on that issue, but, part of it was the building, which was a $250,000 hit,
We
the
won't know
building
which one of
improvements.
those 2 or 3 options we may want to try for in
Right.
another month.
So there's 3 options right there. They're not going to know.
Well, there's other things.
Well, the majority of that stuff, the increase is actually.
It's new stuff.
It's those new things.
Yeah. But to me, it's like you can be invited to a banquet, and here's the greatest food in the world there, the greatest drink in the world, and all this, and you can keep on gorging yourself, and you can it might take a little bit of time for maybe some of us to digest it, and that's what I would like to do.
I know, but I understand. But what I'm saying though is, the mayor was talking a while ago that it's subject to these revenue sources and all this other stuff as
Okay,
before.
we got a property tax too. What is, 9.5 cents that goes to y'all?
8.29.
8.29, that's what it is after that. But, I mean, you know, there's lots of things that that we can think about.
And one thing on
And
here
some of them
that's
can be positive things.
one thing I've been hammering is new ambulances. I've been saying that for a year now, and you got 15 that are over that 150,000 mile mark, and we didn't. Is this 2 years or?
No, we bought some ambulances, but we got some contributions from the foundation to help us with that even.
So it's been at least a year I know of that we didn't. Maybe my first year on the commission we.
There were some years that we didn't get any, but the last couple of years we've done pretty well. We got older ambulances, but they weren't used, you know. So yeah, we've done pretty well, but we still need some more, and we have to keep up.
All right, is there any discussion on the floor, on the motion that's on the floor? Call the roll.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Can you explain, right before you leave, the revenue into your business? If your expenses go up, can't you just charge more?
No,
I'm just asking.
You know, medical billing is so strange. Essentially, Medicare and all the insurance companies are going to only approve so much. So regardless of what you have your rate at, they're still only going to approve a certain amount. So the key is to keep your bill very, very close to those approved rates so that you can get more money.
What
We
percentage
actually,
of your revenue is Medicare based?
about 50%.
How much?
50.
Will Obamacare increase any of that over time?
We're hoping it will. You know, I don't know if there's any good thing about Obamacare.
Hey, that'd be the only thing that's good about it.
But, you know,
I read an article in Fire Engineering about that.
I did have a conversation with one of the emergency room physicians the other day, and they thought if there was anything good about it, it might increase collections to like the emergency room and ambulance services because there would be some money there. You know, as it is now, we're taking care of those people that just don't get any money.
Do you have a chart of the chain of command that shows how many supervisors you have and who they're over?
Yeah, we actually did a study on that, and we showed that we were the very lowest one in the whole county in all public safety agencies.
Well, is there a way I can get a copy of that for the next meeting? Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Mike,
Thank you.
the only other thing I might mention, since we're delaying this a month, why don't you go ahead and get a copy of this budget, stick it in at least the budget members'
Okay, sure.
files,
Yeah.
so we can see it, and you might even get enough for all of us.
Okay. I'll make sure you have one.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Next is the juvenile detention.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have more items than usual tonight. Just tell me where you'd like to begin.
Let's start off with your report and we'll go from there.
Okay. You may recall that I was not here in January, so you have 2 months of data in front of you. So that's a little unusual. But beyond that, if you have any questions, I'll happily answer them.
We don't have a.
Yeah, it's at the end of your budget. You can flip it through.
You're good on the important parts, out of county
Okay.
billed, and out of county received.
When everybody's done looking at the report, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the report.
All right, motion to have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion is carried. Next is,
She's got some budget transfers too. We're gonna look at them, or?
I have 2 things in addition to my budget
all right,
tonight.
let's do the contracts,
Okay.
and then we'll do your budget amendment, and then your budget.
Okay, great.
All right.
You have, we have for many years had a contract with Wilson County When we moved from the old building to the new building, we increased our rate, and we did send this out to them. They just wanted a newer version, so this is not new information. This is not a new county. There's no changes as far as the daily rate. They just wanted something with a fresher date on it. So this is for detention beds for Wilson County.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
I also have a budget amendment tonight. Would like to transfer $200 from my other supplies into my in-service training, and we had it was one required training that had an increase that we weren't expecting.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Okay, I also have my fiscal budget for the year. I don't know if you want to just skip to the end. That's $40,000 less this year than it was last year, or if you want to go through each line item.
Well, $40,000 less than last year. What does the committee want to do?
We need to look at it for a couple.
The only thing that I would draw your attention to would be line item 340. The number that is there is my current contract with our current medical provider. I am in discussions with another medical provider to see if we can do any better on the services that we receive and what they would charge to do that. So if I'm supposed to be hearing from them in the next 7 to 10 days. So if anything changes, it may be that one particular line item.
Since you're $40-something thousand less than last year, and that one there is roughly $20,000 more than last year, is there anything that big that?
The only my real movement as far as within my line item is that I am using some part-time detention officers versus full-time. There's some, minor changes, just moving different money to different line items, but the real difference is that.
So you're actually not asking for any more part-time or any more full-time people than either?
There is, that's kind of a loaded question. There's a wash. I'm asking for a part-time to go full-time, but I'm also asking for full-time positions to go part-time, so they sort of cancel, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You are, but you're not.
Yes.
That's right.
Basically.
And almost full-time, it's
Yeah.
going full-time.
Yeah.
Which is,
But those part-time employees are still county employees, correct?
Yes.
Are they subject to medical benefits, those types of
These
things?
particular part-time employees are going to be working 24 hours a week, so they're going to be true part-time employees that are just hourly with no benefits.
Okay. Are there any rule in place if they work over that or average a certain amount over that, then they get full-time benefits?
It's 30 hours or more a week with, as I understand, some of the new.
Like for a 12-week period.
that's
something
been,
like
that's
that.
been our personnel policy even without the new Obamacare.
So they are subject to that, and you monitor that?
Yes.
And if they get over that, then that's your problem, huh?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to forward the budget on to the budget committee.
Second.
That's the correct way.
Got a motion and a second. All right, discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is that it?
Anything else?
No. That's it.
I'm done then.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
also have a budget tonight. Domestic violence and,
Well,
You missed it.
next is the Sheriff's Department.
Jesus.
put something on the truck in.
And what I got on my mind, when you get through, we'll talk about as far as y'all's budget.
Oh, okay.
Meeting and set a date too.
Okay.
Before I forgot to say something and everybody get out of here.
Have it right here.
See, okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
There you go.
We'll do the budget amendment first.
Sure. Yes, sir. Request to move $5,750 from office equipment into repair and maintenance of equipment. Be the first one. Just want to go down through all of them.
Please.
And then contributions, $2,500. Move that into other supplies. And then move $25,000 out of jury expenses and $25,000 out of prisoner transport, and put that into inmate food. And that's all I got.
All right. Any questions? I guess the inmate food increases due to inmate increase.
That also price increases. She's here to talk, if there's any questions. But roughly over the past 2 years, pricing up 15%. So
Just, none of this would stem because you're transporting back and forth between, that was this fiscal year, wasn't it, the food? Or when
we
were
were doing
the
that
kitchen?
up until roughly about November,
So-
let's say 15th. And so then since November 15th, we've been doing all of our own cooking and stuff. Some of it's up, talking to Nancy today. Our dietitian, where we used to have 2,300 calories a day, the dietitian now says we have to serve 2,500 calories a day. So, let's say chicken nuggets. We used to give 6 chicken nuggets per meal. Well, now the dietitian says we have to give 8. Well, when you've got 900 people,
Them 2 chicken nuggets add up.
Yeah, and so therefore you're buying extra cases of chicken nuggets. Same thing with hamburgers, same thing with everything else. So, we've had those in, also cookies. The dietitian says we've never done that before, but the dietitian says we have to give a dessert. And they're empty calories, but she's saying we have to give a dessert, so we are giving cookies, and actually cookies are expensive.
And the dietitian is governed by state law and all that stuff, is that?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that the public out there didn't think we're just hiring a
No, we're
dietitian
not,
just
yeah.
to give them.
So we may be in the process of looking for a new dietitian this coming year, but right now we have to stick with the dietitian that we have.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that we're not out here just giving. There's a reason.
There's a reason why we don't.
They're all certified.
Yeah. We have to have everything approved by a dietitian, and the dietitian that we have says this, and that's what she signs off on. And if we don't do it, we can be sued.
You all gotta comply with the 8th Amendment about cruel and
Cruel,
unusual
yes.
punishment, so you gotta give them dessert, right?
I don't know if that would fall under it, but we're always worried about the 8th Amendment. Yes.
I wish my dietitian was for just some dessert.
I wish my dietitian would cut some stuff off. Actually.
All right, you've heard the request. Got a motion to?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All right. Hearing or seeing no other questions, call roll.
Commissioner P.
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
Yes.
Next, you just have our report.
Where's your food line item? I saw it a minute ago. Is it
54, 210, 441,
421?
421. 422. I'll get it right here in a minute. Had to find it. 422, yes.
So how much more are you gonna need to make it through the year?
We're not sure yet.
That doesn't look too good.
No, it doesn't.
You've got $1 million for food budgeted, and you spent $922,000, or 922,000.
We've encumbered the last amount. roughly 82,000 is fixing to be encumbered today or
Expert witnesses
tomorrow,
and
and then when they get the paperwork done.
Yeah.
Which one? And we'll probably get through
Witness
April.
expense if you gotta call somebody.
That's if we
And
have
with
a
this
trial.
50,000 we're moving
we
over,
have
that'll
to
get us to May,
sequester a
part of
jury.
May.
Then we
Got
have to
about
pay for
2
the
months.
We'll be
overhead
back
meals,
next month. Yes, sir.
transportation.
That's right.
Didn't do any of that this year. And you remember the year before last, they had to keep giving increases.
All right. Trying to do what we can internally.
Is there
The
any?
thing about it, when we incur costs, we have to pay them. We don't have any choice there.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other questions on the report? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the report.
Motion to approve the report.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next.
Next, we're requesting, naturally, in this year's budget is the end of a 4-year grant that we've had. I don't know if it's on there or not. I know it's not on mine. Lisa brought this to us this afternoon. We're asking to apply for the domestic violence grant. Basically, they like what has gone on with our domestic violence grant that they've given us for the past 4 years. And this is one of the ones I've talked to you in the past about. This year it's up, and we're going to have to look at funding the position. Well, I'm not too keen on them on these grants for positions, but yet with this year being a tight budget year, and we know it's going to be, the federal government has offered to extend the grant by 2 years with a county match of 25%. So they're offering to pay up to $43,819 with a $14,607 match of the county to do it, to extend it for 2 years. So they're willing to pay $75 if the county will pick up $25.
How many people is that?
One.
One.
We only have one grant position out there that's left. Because it's a domestic violence grant, and it's one of those that we're worried about because naturally we've got SROs that we've been talking about. Our biggest thing is we've got the narcotics positions that are coming all due this year, and then we had this. So luckily, they have come and said that they want to extend this. So I hate to say it, we're kicking the can down the road about another 2 years with this grant position, but it's one that is desperately needed because he deals with domestic violence. And they're willing to pay $75 if the county pays $25, so it can help us slowly get there where we need to be.
What's the will of the committee?
I'd like to see us continue the position if we can. If the state's offering us the money to do it for another 2 years, I say we do it. Otherwise, we're either going to cut that position, and if you've looked at domestic violence in this county, that's something we don't need to do.
The numbers, we saw the numbers earlier, and it's gone up, so the workload's not decreasing.
No, it's not.
So I'll make a motion that the sheriff be allowed to apply for the grant. The mayor, signature, and whoever else needs to sign that.
All right, we got a motion, is there a second?
What's our timing on this?
We need to jump on it right away. I'll bring the paperwork by tomorrow.
Yeah, Lisa got this,
Yeah.
this past week while you were
Yeah,
gone.
while you were out.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All right, is there any more discussion? Hearing or seeing none, I guess we call a roll on this because it's money for the grant.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
Yes. Anything else?
Just our attaboys.
Attaboys. Also, next month, he was going to come this month, Dr. Rudd is going to come and talk to y'all. He was planning on coming tonight, but with some issues that come up, he couldn't be here tonight. He wants to come and talk to y'all about the future of inmate health care in Rutherford County. One with this new Obamacare, but also some of the other issues that we are going to experience in the next couple of years. He's got a little foresight, I guess you would say, on that, and he wants to talk to y'all and kind of let y'all know kind of where it's going and what we might be in for. So.
All right.
I had a couple of questions.
Of course, we're looking at this 5-year long-term plan with the capital improvements, and then, of course, the personnel thing. It looked like when we added it up, it was $12 or $13 million. And then, of course, we're possibly looking at adding, or was the SROs included with that at that time? I don't remember.
No, when we did the 5-year plan total, no, it was not in there.
So another possible $1 million for that. Smyrna did a study on its fire department and its police department, had an outside agency or outside nonprofit group come in, and they analyzed the whole department from the top down to look for ways to improve best practices and look at the objective data as to what kind of calls they were getting, what the calls were regarding, what the job description was, is the person actually doing that job, are they, carrying their weight or whatnot. And they were very pleased with the result of that because it showed them areas where they needed to improve, and it also showed them areas where they were spending money that they didn't have to. So I guess I was going to ask you, if we're going to be looking at possibly funding all these things, would you be willing to have such an organization do a study of the sheriff's department?
If you're willing to fund it, I'll be glad to have a staffing analysis done on the sheriff's office. I would encourage it, actually.
I talked to the gentleman that did the Smyrna one that led it, and he estimated for the law enforcement side of the sheriff's office that it would be probably around $65,000 plus the travel. So that's one position and benefits. And the process takes 5 or 6 months to complete it. But with an organization of that size, I think it's good for the public to see just objective facts from an outsider to look and see if there's areas where we can improve efficiency.
Would you like for me to put that in my budget to have a staffing analysis?
I was going to ask, if that's something that would come out of the general fund, or if that should be put into the sheriff's budget. The mayor, I don't know what the best
I kind of
way.
like, I like having somebody besides CTAS tell us something.
Well, this outfit from that did the Smyrna thing.
ICMA,
Yeah, ICMA, they were really good, and he has several PhDs that helped him. They were good with statistics and analyzing the data.
One thing I liked about that study is they told the Smyrna Police Department that the town council wanted to cut certain positions, and that group said, no, we need to keep those positions. Here's other places you can save, and they were like, oh.
Yeah, he said that they don't, if you tell them you want the study to come out a certain way, they don't do business that way. They just look at the objective facts, and they tell you, you need to improve this, or you have too many people in this
they
department.
may come up with an area where you need to cut and an area where you need to do something more in. I'm all for it.
And they reviewed the overtime and found ways that Smyrna could save on their overtime pay and time cards and so forth like that. So I think it's with an organization that size, every so often to have an outside organization that's skilled and does that all the time. This group did it 150 times in the last 5 years, different studies, and he seemed to be really knowledgeable about what he was talking about and made it very clear that he doesn't give his analysis based on what you want to hear. He just gives you based on the facts. So I guess I was going to ask the committee or make a motion that we endorse the concept of having an outside.
Well, I'll say one thing. With my 29 years of experience in the fire service, I disagree with what is some of his stuff on the fire department down in Smyrna. And I know this is not about law enforcement, it's about this study. He's talking about cutting one rescue, and you've got a city the size of Smyrna that really needs to have 2 rescues when you've got railroad tracks and response time and stuff. So there's some things there that I already disagree with him on. So,
but he based the study on objective data. He didn't use the fire department codes and the things that tell you how many officers you're supposed to have per 1,000 people. Because if you have a city like Brentwood where everybody there during the day is there working and they leave at night, and then you got Smyrna where everybody leaves and goes to Brentwood or Nashville to work and comes back. So you can't use the same codes and things that these organizations are talking about.
Well, I can tell you right now, we've had the study done. We've had CTAS, like he said, someone besides CTAS. We've had CTAS, the Justice Department, and our own grand jury tell us that we need 53 more people for the jail alone. So, I'm all for it.
Well, we've already got a study for that. I wanted a study on the law enforcement side.
Well, if we do one, I think you ought to look at department-wide, because naturally, if you're going to cut here, but you need some over here, you may want to funnel this position from here over to here. So, naturally, I'm all for it if that's what y'all want to do.
He couldn't give me as good of an estimate without seeing the jail and knowing what kind of arrangements you had in there and so forth. And he advised that we do one side first to keep the cost down of the study, and then, you know, if we were satisfied with it, then we could ask him to do that. I just think it'd be a good idea, and if we do need more positions in the law enforcement side of it, then the public will have objective data from this expert that shows that we really need to do that. And then my other question was, are we getting new uniforms again this year?
We are in the process of changing these uniforms. If you notice, a lot of these uniforms, these are made by Horace Small. A lot of the lines and stuff on them, this one I think is halfway okay. Definitely with a lot of the long sleeves. They're messed up. Everything kind of looks off kilter. Made in Mexico. It's time. We haven't spent a lot of money on some uniforms in the past couple of years because we bought new uniforms 3 years ago. So
did we not buy some?
I thought you switched around to the heavier uniforms
3 years ago when it came into office.
They're dry cleanable uniforms,
Yeah.
is that correct?
Yes. So we are, naturally, we have money in our budget every year to buy new uniforms. So we are now in the process, because we have still been wearing some of the polyester. We've been wearing these, but they're messed up. So we're looking at a possible change to a uniform that's made in the U.S. and is done right, sewn right. So we are looking at that. And if we do, we'll switch these down to detention.
Are they going to replace the patches and all that too, or just the?
No, as we get new ones, they come on there anyway.
Okay. I guess I was wondering, it seemed like last year we did some, if I remember right, some spending on some more uniforms.
No, we've got money in our uniform line item every year.
Right.
We got about $150,000 every year to buy new uniforms.
Okay. And where are we getting those, or is that going to be something that's done local?
Right now, it's bid out in CMS in Nashville. Has it this year? We'll be rebidding it. So we'll just see where it goes. My natural goal is to have something that's made in America and naturally made in the USA, and that's my number one thought on it. Just like the boots, I switched boots, and the overall savings. These are Danner boots, and they cost more up front, but where we were spending $100 to $200 a year on a pair of boots, because naturally sometimes some officers wear them out quicker, the Rockies. The Danners, I've had these now 3 years, and they seem brand new. And then with these, we've got a deal over here at the Shoe Fixer here on Memorial for $53 the first time, I believe it is. The first time he'll resell it for $53, and then every time after that's $30. So most of the guys that had these way before, they've had their boots for 10 plus years, and they just every 5 years or so they're just reselling them. So I switched us from the Rockies to the Danners, and overall, over the long run, we'll save a ton of money. So
That's all I have.
Commissioner Stevens.
I thought you were going to make a motion to endorse the concept of the outside study. Was that not a motion?
Well, I forgot all about that, but I would like to make a motion that we endorse the concept of hiring an outside consultant to study the law enforcement side of the sheriff's office.
I'll second.
Is that gonna be bid out?
Well, that's just the concept. I'm not 100% sure how it works. Smyrna, the ICMA is a nonprofit. I don't think they had to bid.
Nonprofit or otherwise, unless it's a professional service, we're going to have to bid this out.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, I've got a question for you and the rest of the commissioners too. You know, we did this same thing, I forget how many years ago, but the mayor actually sat on a committee that recommended that we do a study. I don't know if I'm sure he does recall that. And it was something that a lot of us wanted to do. However, the cost, and what are you estimating, $50,000-$60,000?
He told me it was 65.
Well, here's my question. If he comes back and says he needs 55 more men, are you going to vote to fund them?
We'll have to
Or are
find a
we
way
going
to
to throw this $50,000 out the window and they come up and say, hey, yes, you need all this, even though we may not can afford it without a tax increase? Are you going to vote for it?
We'll have to find a way to make those things happen over time. I think so.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to waste $50,000 for something that, you know, somebody's not gonna vote for it even after it comes through. You see where I'm coming from?
I understand, but, you know, we're being asked to spend $15 million over the next few
Oh,
years.
I understand it. I think it's something that's probably needed.
It's a safe and wise thing to do, to study and make sure that all of this is justified before we jump into it.
And my point is, I agree with you, but if it is justified, are you gonna back it up?
Yeah, we'll have to find ways to implement it and make cuts in other places to make it happen.
So,
So where might that be?
Well, we're gonna have to look at the school board too. I mean, we're gonna have to try to get them to make some
Well, you
cuts
got
for
a
us.
maintenance of effort with the school board you may not be aware of, so.
I'm very aware of that, but we don't have to give them an increase. We can cap it at what we spent last year if we have to.
all right, we got a motion and we got a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Call a roll on this one.
Commissioner P.
I'm gonna say $50,000 and say no.
Commissioner Jeff Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Tiffany Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
No.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
No.
3-3.
I agree with the concept.
I don't know what that means, but y'all want me to put it in my budget or not?
Fails.
So you don't want me to put it in my budget? That'll work.
I got one more thing. Last month, about SROs, you were gonna give us information on what the SROs do and what kind of feedback on it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Actually,
Well, it's gonna be coming to a head here pretty soon, like when we get together, I guess, for your budget and all that, so it's something, you know.
I apologize. I remember that now. I did not remember that earlier today.
I've looked at several studies, and I've seen almost all of them are, who knows, because they're done different all over the country.
We
and
keep
all
our
that.
own statistics.
Yeah. So that's what I
With our different, what we deal with at schools, from theft to dealing with weapons to dealing with, other things.
Maybe you're going.
I'm sure you're probably going to cover this under other business, but you need to set a time, if you want to, set a special meeting for the sheriff's budget, or you can do it on the 22nd. But if you think you're going to need at least 2 iterations on their budget, you probably want to set one other meeting time.
What I thought possibly, I want to see what the committee, if you were in agreement. I think what we did last year worked out well. We had a regular night, and then we had on the consent agenda for everybody else just to submit their reports. And if they had some budget transfer to come in that night, if they didn't have no budget transfer, they didn't have to show up for their report. And that way we killed 2 birds with 1 stone and saved about $6,000 for, by not having a special meeting. Is that something that's a possibility for everybody? Can we get the budget for the sheriff's department done in that one night?
I hope so.
What's the?
Yeah,
Well, we're
don't
gonna
need it.
look at EMS's budget, that we're gonna make a decision on it at night, right? That we
Well,
postponed it for,
That surely won't take you.
I don't think it would.
That should take 15 minutes at the most.
I
would
agree
hope.
with you. I agree with you.
It doesn't take long to vote yes.
Doesn't take long to vote. No shorter. It's a shorter word.
All right, so is that okay with the committee, my recommendation?
What was it again, Gary? What day?
Our regular meeting date on 4th Monday?
22nd.
22nd of April.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Okay, with that being said, we'll just leave it at that, and there'll be a consent agenda for everybody that, unless they got a budget transfer that night, and then the department head doesn't have to show up unless they got a budget transfer.
They just turn their reports in
Yeah.
to Vicky.
And we'll do a consent agenda, and that way, it'll give a lot of them, if they don't have something, they'll give them the night off, have to come up there and be with us.
And for the sheriff's budget, can we have a paper agenda?
Sure.
I don't know how to print out this.
What we probably should do
Well,
with
actually,
the sheriff's budget is probably put a paper copy in each box.
Yeah, that would be good, yes.
At least several days before your Monday meeting.
Yes.
And we'll also email it to your email address, so you'll have access to it no later than Wednesday or Thursday of that before Monday.
And it's gonna be difficult, especially with vehicles, so.
All right, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn, we stand adjourned, thank y'all.
Thank you.